Let's dig into the first real deal. Now, opposition to this deal, it created a lot of strange, I'm talking really strange bedfellows, right? We're talking Nancy Pelosi and Tammy Bruce on the same page.
I know. God, don't remind people. No.
You had a piece in the Washington Times that was pretty scathing and somewhat scary. What was your opposition?
Well, look, WikiLeaks got a hold of a few of the chapters of the secret TPP, and they're saying, and it seems pretty clear, that about 3 or 4 of the chapters are about trade. All the rest is about commerce, internet regulation, corporations, their relationship with countries, etc. So they put out a bounty of $100,000 to try to get more of the chapters, because clearly something's being hidden. And when we find out that it's really not necessarily a trade bill, but a global governance bill, people begin to wonder, what is this about and what are they trying to do?
So you're saying one world government, here we come.
Well, look, it's like, if you will, the EU, that you've got this collection of countries that have made a deal that supersedes the governments of the countries involved in the end when it unfolds. And that's also what's making people like Senator Sessions uncomfortable, is that how does this affect American law and how does it take Congress out of the picture?
Giving up more of our sovereignty always is scary, because in Europe, a lot of them have done that. Brussels has almost more power than almost any European capital. So I can see the legitimate worry about that. Now, another odd couple that, definitely is an odd couple, right? We had Ted Cruz, President Obama, on the same page. And Scotty, in your piece on TPNN.com, you lay out why the Tea Party darling was all for this deal with President Obama.
That's absolutely it. And Charles, you mentioned also bedfellows. That's a great word to describe this. And you've got Tammy sitting there talking about WikiLeaks getting our information. I think that's why we have the confusion on this. And I will never be angry at a politician who votes to make sure that they don't enlarge government not knowing what the bill said than someone that just votes for it because they think they know what it is, which was in the case of majority of these senators and representatives who came out with these position pieces as to why they were supporting it. All of them were contradictory. None of them said the exact same thing because nobody knew exactly what was in this bill.
Although Paul Ryan said, guys, come on, I guess he might have saw it. I know there's a secret room, but some people could have read it. He was saying some of the things like immigration was just an urban legend. Now, we had another piece, believe it or not, Susan blogged about this. Now, you were positive. You were underscoring some of the same points that Paul Ryan made and President Obama made. You thought this would have been a great deal, even though you didn't read it.
That's right. I didn't read it. Trust me. But so I work with the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council in Washington, D.C., and we lobbied heavily for the passage of this because look at NAFTA. We had the same kinds of objections by the unions and big business when NAFTA was presented. But the results for small businesses were significant. In fact,
can you really quantify that?
Because, yes, absolutely.
Really?
Let me tell you this. So small businesses who are exporters are 20% more productive, and they also create 20% more jobs. That is really telling right there. So it opened up the market. Small businesses couldn't afford to put a presence in Mexico, and so now it made that competitive for it.
But now let me push back on this a minute, because you mentioned Mexico, you mentioned NAFTA. This year, 6 large major auto plants were announced to be built in Mexico. So far, 1 in America and South Carolina, right to work state. What about, why should we have to send, it's nuts. How come maybe all 7 would have been in America?
Well, right, exactly. But you know what? Who's sending those jobs overseas? It's the unions who are creating that situation. It's the people who want to get $15 an hour for flipping a burger. And it's also our corporate tax structure. All of those things combined. But it is important for small businesses to have free trade. 95% of the world's population and consumers live outside the U.S.
We want free trade. We also want fair trade. And I think that's another consideration for this thing. People just don't trust President Obama to cut a good deal, which, by the way, one of the reasons everyone's worried about what's going to happen in Iran.